Hello friends, welcome to the studio. Today we're going to explore color, how it works and how we can use it as artists. And oh my friends, this is not something that I can explain in a half-hour video. I've been learning about color all my life as an artist. I'm still learning new things about color. But I do have some very useful and helpful points to share with you today. First, you need to gather your color tools. I have a wide selection here on the table. I've got crayons, water-soluble crayons, colored pencil, and paint. Paint is the easiest medium to use when you are doing color experiments because the paints mix together so quickly and easily. But you can still do great color experiments with dry media, and today I am actually going to show you what I have discovered about color using colored pencils. I think that you will understand color best if you try first to figure out how color works on your own. So what I want you to do now is pause the video and then take your color tool that you have chosen and start mixing the colors together. You can do it with a plan or without a plan. Just close your eyes and pick two colors and combine them and see what happens. Or you can be very orderly and you can make yourself a chart where you take each color and mix it with all the other colors that you have. But make a start on your own and see what you can first learn about how color works. Then come back to the video and we'll talk together. First, friends, let's think about how color works. Color is a property that we perceive with our eyes, so it has to do with light. And the way color works scientifically in light is different than the way color works with our tools. For instance, we know that white light is actually all of the colors of light mixed together. And when you take away light, the color that is left is black. That's not the way color works with materials, whether they're colored pencils or crayons or paints. Colors mix with one another physically differently than they mix with one another in terms of light. But light is where it begins. And so we often, as artists, think about color in terms of the rainbow. Now, I learned that when we see a rainbow, we're really only seeing part of the circle of color. That's why a rainbow looks like half of a circle, but it's actually a fully circular shape. So what I did first with my colored pencils is I laid them out on my paper in rainbow order, and I did that in a circle. And I think you'll agree that my colors in the rainbow order seem to blend together and gradually transition. I left some colors in my box that aren't part of the rainbow, but we do use them as artists. And I think you see them very clearly. We have white and black, and then two kinds of browns. Now we know in light, white is all the colors and black is no color at all, but you know from your own art projects that white and black behave differently when they're in a coloring tool. White added to a color can make it lighter, and black added to a color can make it darker. And I have found that it's easier to start with white and add the color that I want to be lightened to it, then to try and start with the color and lighten it up with white. But the reverse is true for darkening a color. I like to start with the color and then darken it. It is harder to change black if you begin with it. And with something like colored pencil, I often will go back and forth until I get the right mixture of the colors. Now, what about brown? What is brown? It's not on the color wheel. Well, we can figure out what brown is if we do a little experiment right now. I am going to color brown all the way around my ring. I'm coloring so it is overlapping the colors as well as appearing on the white of the paper. In art, we often think of browns as a neutral color, which means that it's a color that can mix and work with any other color in the rainbow. And I think you will agree that that is true. There isn't a big change where the brown goes over any of these colors in the wheel. But there are definitely some places where the brown appears to disappear into the color and where it stands out more. So in fact, we think of browns as being more like oranges than any other color in the rainbow. But there are many different kinds of browns that you can make, which is why they work so well with all the other colors. Because you can have browns that look red or browns that look blue and so on. What discoveries have you been making by mixing your colors together? I bet one of the first things you discovered was that some of your colors, when mixed together, could make other colors in the rainbow. And we often in art talk about red and yellow and blue as being the primary colors, because from those three colors, you can mix the other colors in the color wheel: orange, purple, and green. And I had two kinds of blue in my set, so I noticed that I could make two kinds of green and two kinds of purple. But friends, I want you to look at the purples that I made. Do they look purple to you? And do they even look nice? They don't really look like a good, strong, clear purple. They're pretty muddy. And this is again where you run into the limitations of your materials. Red and blue don't always make purple if the red and the blue that you're using are not good mixes together, are not the right kind of red or the right kind of blue. I happen to have this color in my set. It is called magenta, although it has a lot of different names. And I want you to watch what kind of purple I can make with magenta and blue. And I want to actually show you some other things that this magenta can do. This magenta can work like my red. I can mix it with yellow and make an orange. So for my set of colors in colored pencils, my primary colors, the colors that I would use to make a complete rainbow, are going to be magenta, blue, and yellow. Not red, blue, and yellow. And friends, I just realized I did the same blue twice. How silly. There we go. In fact, now that I think about it, I would probably use these three colors to make a complete rainbow. The lighter blue, the magenta, and the yellow. So whenever you're working with color, always test out your color combinations and find the best colors that you can make to use in your artwork. Friends, one last thing I want to show you about mixing colors is how you can make a brown by mixing together all of your primaries. You remember that we talked about how brown is a kind of orange. So if I make an orange, I can dull it down and neutralize it by adding that third color into the mix. And depending on these two colors, I might get an orange brown or a red brown or a blue brown. All right, so once you have figured out how your color tools work together and what colors you can create by mixing your color tools, then the next step as an artist is to decide what colors you want to use in your artwork. And we basically have two choices. We can try to use colors that are realistic because we're trying to recreate something that we see, or we can use colors that are imaginary because we're not interested in using realistic colors. We've created the image entirely out of our mind. So I want to share with you 3 ways artists choose colors and how they work. We talk about cool colors and warm colors, and we talk about complements or complementary colors. If you look here at the circle, warm colors are on this side, red, orange, yellow, though green and purple can be warm as well, and even blues can be warm. This is a warm green, and this is a warm purple. This side of the circle are the cool colors, purple, blue, and green, although you can have a cool red. Complements are colors that do not relate to one another on the circle. So if you have red, its complement would be a green. And when you look on the circle, you can see that they're sort of across from one another. Just like orange and blue are across from one another. And my wheel, yellow is kind of across from this magenta, but it's really across from this darker purple, which I don't have. I would have to mix some colors together to get the complement of yellow. Here's a fun way to play with the color choices that you could make in an artwork. This page is inspired by the work of artist Andy Warhol, who lived in the United States of America, and he was still making art when I was a little girl. He began as a commercial artist. He was an artist for hire, and companies would ask him to make pictures to use in their advertisements in magazines or newspapers. And then later in life, he became a fine artist where he made artwork that he sold to individual people in galleries. He was always interested in color and how colors work together and what kind of effect he could create in his pictures. And he was also always interested in products, everyday things that we might see in our lives in the grocery store, and using them in his artwork. He often would do a series of artworks where he kept the same subject over and over again, but would change the colors that he used. And he would use all the colors in that rainbow in all different kinds of combinations. I've covered up these first two Campbell's soup cans because I started to play with color and I wanted to show them to you one at a time. So here's my first one. I used colors that are related to one another on this ring of color. And here's my second one. I used mostly colors that were related to one another, plus one color that's more complementary. On this soup can, the green spot really stands out because it is so different from the orange and the red. On this soup can, the green spot doesn't stand out as much. It looks much more quiet and blends together with the blue and the green because these are all colors that are related together. You can find this coloring page online if you do a search for Andy Warhol coloring pages, and you can print it out for yourself and try some coloring experiments too. Or you can make a drawing of a simple everyday object or something that you like to draw and scan it and print it out multiple times and try a bunch of different color arrangements and see. Friends, there's so much to learn about color. You're going to be exploring and experimenting with it all your life as an artist. I hope that what you tried today was fun and exciting, and that you will continue to experiment and play with color as you make your art. Have fun, and I'll see you next time.